Good evening. The time is now 6:30 p.m. on this, the 17th day of January 2023, and I call this Instructional Committee meeting of the United Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. The following board members are present. Please state your name.
Frank Castillo, present.
Annalisa Oliveros, present. Let the record show that this meeting has been duly called and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Agenda item 1, public comment.
This time we have no public comment.
Okay, agenda item 2, informational items. 2A, review of legal policies and update 120.
Good
Hi,
evening,
Ms. Morales.
Ms. Oliveros, Mr. Montemayor, Mr. Castillo, Mr. Gonzalez, members of the audience, Rebecca Morales, Assistant Superintendent for Administration and Policies. I'm bringing to you an informational item to review our legal policies in the TASB Update 120. We had a total of 26, and they're all revised, no new policy.
Okay.
Okay, do you have any questions?
No questions from me?
No.
Okay, all right,
Thank you.
moving on. 2B, January TEA accountability updates.
Good evening, Emma Leza, Associate Superintendent for CNI for the record. Today we're bringing you the updates that we have to date from TEA. There were 2 updates that were submitted. One was November the 9th, and this latest one was January the 3rd. And what we're going to go over is just an overview because it's still not finalized. They still have not completed everything or received all of the feedback from districts, so we're still waiting for additional updates after their February 2nd close.
In other words, there could be some more changes.
Yes.
That's what the board needs to know.
For the better?
We'll go over the
necessarily.
changes
We'll
that
see.
we have right now and then the feedback that we're going to be presenting. So with this refresh on the accountability framework, we still keep the same 3 domains. So we still focus on student achievement, and that's measured by STAR for the most part. We still kept school progress for domain 2, and that's measured by the students progressing from one performance level to the other. And then the last one is closing the gaps, and that is the federal accountability part of our state. So when we look at student achievement, the student results will not be available until the end of June or July, because apart from the refresh on the accountability, the STAR test has been undergoing a lot of changes. So they won't be able to set the cut points to tell us the student passed or did not pass until probably June or July. Okay? And they won't do that until they receive all the scores in the state and then do their review of the assessment. The good thing is that there is no change to the formula. So the formula is still, we are at expecting to have 90% of our students at the approaches grade level, 60% of our students at the meets grade level, and 30% of our students at the master's grade level. So that's good because our principals, our teachers, everybody knows and understands this rule. However, there are some major changes to the high school accountability, and that is going to be to the College Career Military Readiness, or CCMR, and to the graduation rates, and I'll go over those in just a minute. On school progress, where they measure the students progressing from one level to the next for reading and math, they kept the one part of it the same, but they did add, and this is a good for us, they did add some bonus points, and I'll explain those bonus points in a minute. And then the last part, TEA has already submitted their changes to the federal government, but they're awaiting their approval. So that's why we still don't have a set accountability system, so we're waiting for these changes. However, there were some major changes as to how the groups are created, and that is going to work in our favor, the reason being that our scope and sequence, our curriculum, our assessments that we have, we always target our economically disadvantaged subgroup, our English learner subgroup, and our special ed subgroup, and now they'll be in one subgroup, and so there won't be counting multiple times. So that's also really good. So let me dive into student achievement domain and the graduation rate component. Now this is a big change. Even though they're only, and they said we've only increased the cut point to 2 percentage points, when we look at that, our cut point used to be 96 to 96.9% of our students graduating. That's how we used to get an A. Right now, with that score or with that percentage, it now is a B. And you can see that it'll now be an 80. So in order for us to garner that A in graduation rates, we have to graduate 98 to 98.9% of our students in high school. Okay, so even though it's a small percentage change, it means a lot because you can't have that many students not graduate with their cohort. So we are working with our classes, with our high schools. The other thing is that this is based on the class of 2022 that have already
So there's
graduated.
nothing we can do about it. They give us the formula now, but we already have the data. We can't change it. That's the
Yes.
difficult part.
Okay, so that's the big change.
So
for-
before, it was 96, 96.9 would be
Yes.
an A?
Would be an A. Now it's 98 to 98.9 to even just get to the cusp of the A.
So what are we now?
So right now, that's what we're still looking at our graduation rates because the
From
state.
last year?
Yes, because they clean up all of our data, and so we're waiting for those files. But we are normally between the 96.9 to the 97. That's where we normally range. Now, however, because of COVID and because of the individual graduation committees, I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to hit that cusp of the 90.
You think so?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
You think we're
So-
gonna have a 98 to a 98.9?
We probably will, because we really work on making sure our students meet those graduation requirements. Let me say something else. This is the state graduation requirement, so they let us look at our 4-year cohort and our 5-year cohort. So, I will bring you the exact numbers where we're at. We're still waiting for that file from the state just to make sure we match what we have, to be a little bit more certain. The other big change is college and career military readiness, okay? Again, this one is from the students that walked across the stage May 2022. Okay, so it's our graduating class. And they changed the cut score here from a 65%, that used to be an A. Now you look at the 65% is a 71 as far as the scale score. So in order to get that A, we have to have 88% of our students graduate with a college career military ready point. Okay? Now, again, this we have because we generate the data for this and we submit it directly to the state. We know right now that for the class of 2022, we have 2 campuses that did make the 88%. 2 of them are landing in a B. Okay? And this is 40% of that student achievement score, and it's also 50% of the relative performance in school progress. So CCMR is critical. Now, we already have plans for this year, for this graduating class, but again, we cannot do anything about the students that are already graduated with us.
We know this criteria after the fact?
Yes, because they're building this refresh for accountability. Now, we won't be able to bring you our final ratings until September 2023.
And how does that affect the kids who are graduating? Well, I guess, the kids that are graduating this year, 2023.
Well, the students that are graduating this year, we're already looking at, where are they? Have they generated a point for CCMR? And we already have met with high schools to have a plan for them. So we can continue with for example, the TSI test is a way to get a college and career military readiness point. So we're already working with a plan to make sure that if they have not been enrolled in the college prep course, that they're very close to getting that TSI. We're doing tutorials and providing additional testing. Now, we will have until October of this year to gather all of those points for this class of 23 because they will participate in the accountability of 24. So you're always a year behind with your graduation class, okay? But for the class of 2022, there is absolutely nothing we can do anymore. So we now know we have 2 campuses landing at a B and 2 campuses landing in an A. They're high Bs, so we still have other ways of getting to that A, but that's one of the big changes. And I don't know if you remember that we talked about that the institutes of higher learning, like we're sending our students ready for college, but they're not able to maintain in that first year, they lose a lot of students their freshman year in college. And so that's one of the reasons that they increase the percentage to the high schools, because they want to match that those students that are continuing in universities and college.
Is this scoring the students score?
Yes.
Or that's what we're looking at,
No,
their grades,
The
their
students
testing?
the students are generating points here, and they're doing it by either participating in a dual enrollment class, either by getting the score for TSI, and TSI is college ready in math or in language arts, or participating in a career, CTE, Career and Technology certificate, or by enrolling in a college prep course. So we've known the criteria, and we're very good about getting as many students as we can to graduate with the CCMR point, but from a 65 to an 88 is a huge jump. We were not anticipating that
That
big
caught us
of
up.
a
That was a big surprise to us.
requirement.
You think these are final estimations, or, you know?
This one looks pretty set, however, we are providing feedback, and so I suggested to the commissioner that maybe they need to put the Institutes of Higher Learning on an A through F accountability system as well.
Right, well,
because-
that's what I'm thinking, because they're
Because we are
shooting it
doing
down to
everything,
us.
yes,
Yeah.
we're doing everything with our resources to
Mm-hmm.
ensure that we're providing our students with post-secondary experience. Ready for the post-secondary
Right,
life.
right.
Either you go to college, you go to career, or you go to the military.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we've focused on. However, again, the change in the score is just.
Yeah,
it-
they're
it's
holding
a
us
huge jump.
accountable for a year after they're not even in our district.
Yes,
Right.
For that year after they've left us, we're still accountable
Yes.
for whatever they do.
yes.
And
Uh,
yeah, I agree with you, it's not right.
So we have provided feedback, and we will continue to provide feedback. This is a very different way for the district to earn the rating. So before, as a district, the analysis was based exactly as the high school. They would look at STAR performance, they would look at college, career, military readiness, graduation rates, and then, of course, student or progress or relative performance. That relative performance is that they compare us to districts that have the same economically disadvantaged rate. So that's the way that the high schools were rated was exactly the way the district was rated. Now, this is going to change, and this one is pretty much set. So what they're looking at is they're going to look at the enrollment from grades 3 to 12, because these are the tested grades. And then based on the enrollment for every campus, they're going to take the final rating, and I'll move this one down. They're going to take the final rating of that campus times that multiplier, and so the district will now get its final rating by the sums of all of the campus contributions. So for example, let's say the campus one is an elementary school with 334 students, 3rd through 5th. Then they look at, in this example, the district enrollment is 2,417. So they'll divide 334 by 2417, and the weight that campus is going to provide is 13.8%. Then they're going to come back and look at the campus and say, okay, what was your final rate? Your final score was an 85, times your weight, 13.8, then you contributed to the district 11.7 points. And so they're going to add up all of our campuses and the contribution that every campus has, and that is how we will now earn our district rating. Versus before, it was just overall STAR testing,
Okay.
but then our college, our graduation rates, which were very high, remember we were at the
Right,
A,
right.
and our college and career military readiness, which was also very
Very
high at
high.
the A. So we were rated exactly like the high schools were rated, and so now the state is saying, no, no, no. Now we have to have, the district rating has to be comprised of what every campus is going to contribute. And they did this because in several instances, districts were rated an A, and yet they had a campus that was rated a D or an F. Again, not at United ISD, because all
Right.
of our campuses have been consistently Bs or As.
Be or above.
But because they were seeing that it was possible, it was mathematically possible because of how the rating was computed, they said, no, now we're going to go to every campus will contribute. And of course, campuses with larger enrollment, like our middle schools, their contribution will be higher.
That's not, that logically, for the teacher, it just adds additional pressure for them to perform, becomes performance-based at individual campuses.
Yes.
It perhaps will even send, maybe your coordinators will start paying more attention specifically to one campus
We are.
versus another.
Yes,
Which
we-
is not fair to the students at the other campuses either, but I could see that those are going to be some of the issues that are going to
Right.
be happening.
Now, what I will tell you is, based on our history and our historical data, we have increased the number of A's and decreased the number of B's. So we have been doing things based on our data, based on our scope and sequence, based on the assessments that we have been looking at. We've been doing things the right way for our students, because ultimately it's, how our students perform on their assessment. So we're situated in a better place than most districts are. However, at this point, we won't even be able to bring you probably projections until maybe late June, early July, and that's if they give us those cut points for the assessment, because we don't even know now.
Where is the economic disadvantage that you mentioned earlier? Is there something that's
Yes.
a variable in their ratings?
Yes, it is, and it is in relative performance. So what they do with relative performance is they take all of the campuses and their STAR score, and then they look at their economically disadvantaged performance rate. And so it stands to reason that the lower your economically disadvantaged rate, the higher your STAR scores should be, because those students have more experiences. And vice versa, the higher your economically disadvantaged, they expect the lower STAR assessment score. Now, again, we are outliers when I look at all of the state data, because we have consistently been high economically disadvantaged, high performance. And again, I have to contribute that to all the work that our coordinators and teachers do in making sure that every year we update that scope and sequence, because it's based on how our students performed, where the weaknesses are, and then that's where we make that scope and sequence more robust so that we can we can close those gaps, those instructional gaps. Now, again, I also have to say we're dealing with COVID, and the rating that we had this past year was largely because of how our students performed from 2021 to 2022. So 2022 is now the new baseline that we're going to compare 2023. However, there are two different tests, STAR 1.0 for 2022, STAR 2.0 for 2023. So there's so many variables in this accountability system that we are keeping up with everything, but every time we go to a new session, we just pick a little bit, pick up a little bit more about what's happening. Okay. So that's a huge change for the district. Here's the timeline that the state has put together, and again, they won't give us the final manual, in other words, the rules to everything, until the summer of '23, and that is either June or July, late June or early July.
It's almost like going to a game and you play the game and they'll give you the rules after the game's
After the
over.
game, yeah.
I mean, that's what it looks, that's what it comes down to.
The scoring.
Yeah.
So
Now-
how often do they change the
It's every
scoring?
5 years.
Every 5 years.
Every 5 years. But this is the first time that we go through the change, because the system that we've had has been in place for 5 years.
5 years is the first one.
And
First
they did
revision.
not extend because of COVID or anything.
Okay.
It was 5
They
years,
stuck-
and
they stuck to
that's-
it,
Yeah,
yeah.
they stuck to that. On the assessment for our emergent bilinguals or our English learners, the TELPAS, there's going to be a change there too. Our teachers were trained to score the writing and then submit the score. This year, it will now be online, and it will be scored either through artificial intelligence or through scores that the state has. So our teachers will no longer score the writing part of the test. Now, the good thing is that they're not going to count that part this year. They're only going to look at the listening, speaking, and reading, and our students just have to progress in 2 out of the 3. So we're happy about that. That's a happy
Okay.
face for us.
Okay.
That was a win.
Okay.
Again, they're proposing to complete all of the ratings until August or September. And on CCMR, for example, if we got, and we planned for this, we planned all of our freshman students to have a class in Word and get the certificate in Word. Why? Because we know that that is marketable for them. It's important. They're going to have to write research papers in college and write letters in work and all of that. So we worked on that certification before. That would give us a point. For the class of 2022, it'll still give us the point. For the class of 2023, now they're phasing that out. They're saying, no, that's too easy. You know, you want that point, then they have to be certified in Word, in Excel, you know, they're just making that more robust. But we have been meeting with Angie Sanchez, CTE director, and so we are planning for that. So we'll have a plan for that, but just know that they're making it more robust. So what is our plan of action? Again, accountability continues to stay updated with all the information. We just went through leadership with our principals, presented all of this information, allowed them time for questions, examples. Today, we just finished presenting to all of our coordinators through a CNI professional learning community meeting, and so we're keeping updated. As soon as we have more information, we will start modeling data. So our data evaluators have the capacity to do that, but we need those cut points. So we need more information from the state so that I can present Mr. Gonzalez with, okay, so this is how we're looking, this is what we're expecting. We're going to continue with our accountability sessions. Also, like Mr. Gonzalez said, midwinter, everywhere that we can sign up for accountability, we're making sure that we're there. And then real important, and we talk to our principals, our focus remains on student achievement, student progress, and CCMR and graduation. So those are the main components, so we stay very focused on that, and we're supporting the campuses with that.
Okay.
So that's what I
Okay.
have. I don't know if you have any other questions.
I guess we'll save them for later.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 3A, first reading of TASB Update 120 Local Policies. Ms. Morales.
Yes, so as a result of TASB Update 120, we also have some local policies up for consideration, and this is first reading. There's no significant changes to policy. There's mainly some changes to language, some text that's moved around, a couple of additions. And the three policies that we're looking at are CKC Local, which is to our safety program. And the recommendations here are to add language to a response to train derailment, which is a conversation that we've already had with Mr. Garza, who oversees safety and his team, and that is to be included in our emergency plan. The other change is to F&G Local, which has to do with our student rights and responsibilities, our grievance and complaint process. And that is to number 14. Some of it, again, the other language is just changed around. And the other one that is new is number 14, which is having to do with complaints concerning eligibility for free and reduced meals. And then the last change is to our FO Local, which is having to do with our student discipline. There was some language added to page 82, which is to our innovation plan. And then the only other change was to physical restraint, which, again, there was just something removed on the restraint of irrational students, and the rest is just language that was moved around. So this is the first reading. We plan to take it. We've already presented it to our management team, the changes. We've discussed it at management. We've discussed it with our district leadership at our leadership meeting last week. And, of course, we still have some time to review any edits and recommendations with our attorneys. And after your review, before we do our final next month in February.
What was the change to restraints?
The change to restraints was just language. I don't know if Ms. Lessa, if you can pull it up. And it is actually page 84, which there it is, right there. So really it was just language. If you move down a little bit, they added the note. The note was already there. If you can move it up, I'm sorry, a little bit. The note was actually on the bottom, and so
They just
it just moved to the top.
Okay, But nothing in the language itself, of what
It
we do
wasn't
in
the
our
language
practice.
itself, it was only number 4, which was the removal of the irrational student that's kind of already
Okay.
in the policy itself.
Yeah, okay, all right, just want to make sure we weren't changing the way we restrain
No.
students or anything.
No,
like
not
that.
at all.
Okay, all right.
So again, for your review, and we'll be bringing it back for final in February.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, 3B, first and final reading of board policy, BE local board meetings.
Yes, committee members, Mr. Gonzalez, and members of the audience. Actually, items B
B and
through
C?
E.
B through
Well,
E?
B
Okay.
through E, yeah.
Okay.
Those 4 items are, we floated the idea to you all of a board workshop in lieu of board committees. So these would be changes to the local policies and board operating procedures, if approved by the board, to just reflect that. For instance, letting it be known that they'd still be held on Tuesdays at 6 PM. The public comment would still be allowed on any topic, and changing the use of the word committee for workshop.
Okay.
We did get a question during the instructional committee, is how would that committee,
Business.
the business committee, how would that workshop be chaired? And I advised Mr. Rodriguez, that it would flow through the order of officers. So technically, the board president would be the chair, and if he's not available, vice president, so on and so forth. So these changes, if approved by the board at the regular meeting, would just be to reflect that, change from committees to workshops.
Yeah.
Any questions?
So if it's just a workshop, then, I mean, do we even need a chair? Is it something that administration would be
Well, I think
facilitating?
it's something that the board needs to lead.
Yeah.
Yes, the board member would need to lead it. You could have, we'll post them, like we do these, we'll post them as, under the Open Meetings Act as meetings that can be
Okay,
called to order.
so it would be a meeting.
So you could have
It would be a
one,
meeting.
you could have one member attend, or you could have all 7 members attend.
Because there would be no action taken.
No action taken.
Yeah.
It would, the items would still be presented by administration, but for example, at these 2 committees, we had, I think, 6 items that were redundant on both committee agendas.
Okay.
So it's a way to streamline the process, make it a bit more efficient.
More efficient, right?
Just have one meeting where,
Absolutely.
like, again, one of you all could sit on the workshop, or all 7 of you all could sit, and it would still be the same items that are being brought, or have been brought for years to the committees, but just
We're going to discuss this
at
in
one time.
executive session next week.
Yes, sir.
It's
Yes.
up for vote, no?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Oh, no. If you don't want to remove it for individual consideration, you can, but if it's okay with you guys, it's going to be on consent.
It's gonna be on consent,
This
correct.
meeting, but if you don't want further deliberation.
Well, the consent after executive.
well, the reason we brought it to committee is because we had kind of floated this idea at prior meetings to you all, so this is just the next step in the process. But again, if you
Well,
all,
And that's the purpose of, for all of us, that's the purpose of having just one workshop.
correct.
Because we're going to vote on a consent. item
Consent.
That we've not. that
Participated in.
We've not participated.
Correct.
The business committee heard about this,
Right.
but not the instructional committee. Even though we've been talking about it, I know what you're talking about.
Sure.
now, But I just want to make sure that the board understands.
Absolutely.
that It's going to be a change. Instead of two committees, we're going to have one huge committee
One
called the workshop
yeah.
now.
And that's why we
I'm-
wanted
I'm
to
all in
make
favor.
sure.
I think it's more efficient.
Sure. And that is one of the reasons that, from our firm, we did make sure to put these 4 items on both committees, for discussion by both committees tonight.
Okay.
And then again, the idea would be that they are on the consent agenda at the regular meeting next week, and that would just effectuate that change, so that in February, we would
We would
just post
just-
a workshop.
Yeah, so are you okay with it being under consent? Mr. Castillo, are you okay with
Yes,
it being under
I'm
consent?
fine.
I think what it'll do will eliminate the idea, this happened earlier, William Rodriguez today by himself. Had he been absent, we would have to postpone, we would not be able to have the business committee.
Correct. That's the way as the
Because y'all wouldn't be able to
committee,
come in.
the way as the board policy is currently written, that's correct. If there was no committee member for the business committee, we would have to technically cancel the committee meeting for the business.
And this way, all we need is one, we can have a workshop and just go with it.
Yeah, but you do need at least one board member.
Yes,
for
At
the-
least one, at least one,
Yeah.
yes, correct.
Sometimes that's
We just need a
hard.
body.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
somebody. No
But
virtual.
it wouldn't lead to
have to
any
be-
more meetings during the month or anything. It would just be.
Yeah, I think it would be less in a sense for you all, especially the audience.
We would have been through.
We would have been done. We're almost done.
Well, yes, for example, I mean, Ms. Morales had to present at both meetings on
Yeah.
those local policies,
Sorry.
legal policies,
Yeah.
and, you know, just things we talked about.
Yeah, I think it'll be
So
easy.
she's happy to do
Other
that.
duties
Not that she
aside.
minds, by the way.
She's happy to do
Gentleman
that.
behind you is
I don't need to read those into the record, we're good?
No, you don't need to read into the
Okay,
record.
all
They're all
right.
just
So
related to that
I guess the next
idea.
agenda item is adjournment, so I think we're good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.